Welcome back, everybody. Today is Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. In today's video, this is kind of an urgent one. We'll be covering the tropics and the main development region of the Atlantic, as well as the Southeast and Florida. So that is what we will be going over in this video. This won't necessarily be a national forecast. We will be getting that out, I'm hoping, around Saturday, as this is a very, very urgent matter. Not that weather across the nation isn't. It's just that this is definitely something we really, really closely need to keep our eyes on. All right, everybody. We are over here on Weather Nerds, and um, it is. This is the GFS model. It's showing a very, very, very conducive main development region. And as you can see, these spaghetti models reach into the Caribbean. And it's interesting because around not even as much as a day ago, these spaghetti models were up going into Bermuda. We now only have one doing that. And that is one member out of I think 44. So it's really showing that they are agreeing that this Bermuda high has weakened and is now going to, um, not have as much of an effect on the steering pattern as just the natural movement of where the storm is going to go. So we are really just gonna wait and see if this thing does end up in the Caribbean, because right now, if it ends up in the Caribbean, we could see it either get torn apart by wind shear, or we could see it potentially make through if it can just slow down enough and stay on the southern end here, because up here just around 100 miles south of Puerto Rico and even Dominican Republic and Haiti, we're seeing a wind shear of up to 40 knots, which is enough to absolutely tear any system apart. So that's why, and that's another way of showing how strongly the El Nino pattern is really affecting these storms. As you can see, the main development region isn't as affected, and that's because it's not as close to where the El Nino pattern um, would necessarily affect its con conduciveness for tropical systems, right? Because these are coming off of West Africa, so it's very, very interesting to watch these systems during a pattern like this because they can do literally anything. All it takes is a weakening or a deep pocket of light shear for this thing to make it through the Caribbean. Now, is that the most likely scenario? No, but is it a possibility? Absolutely, especially if it goes south. If it goes south, and it can manage to ride up into a pocket, it can absolutely make it into the Gulf. And if it makes it into the Gulf, that could be very dangerous. Now, we are seeing more high intensity patterns than not as threatening. Now, this is because if this thing can remain west, any piece of land necessarily, the Cabo Verde, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, even Cuba is in harm's way. So that's why we are watching this so closely. Because if it can stay north even of Puerto Rico, it's gonna avoid that shear, and it's not gonna be close enough to that Bermuda high to necessarily ride it north. Because as you can see, there's even a couple of members here, a part of the GFS model, which we will look at more. Um, still riding west, and if it rides west, that's when it becomes a threat to Key West, Florida, Miami, Florida, and if it can get up there, that's when the Bermuda High should have had enough time to re-strengthen, and it can just bring it up, sort of like an Irma. Now, am I trying to fearmonger and say that this thing is going to be the next Irma? Absolutely not. And I think, you know, this has the possibility of being an absolute fizzle. It just dies out, which I think is one of the more likely scenarios, and we'll get into that a bit later. Or it could potentially meet these pockets of low shear and make it into the southeast coast of the United States, even the Cabo Verde Islands, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Hispaniola areas like that. Okay, everybody, so we are looking here at our eSense model, and it is showing that this system could survive through this unstable and unconducive environment. And this is becoming a more and more likely scenario, but it also isn't because as the shear strengthens and sustains itself, the storm can only be so slow, right? Now, if it goes stationary in this scenario, we'll say, and it can then slowly start moving west again. We are talking potential major hurricane, just a hypothetical, once again a possibility, but we are talking potential major hurricane if this thing can go stationary at some point. Now, we're looking at these trade wind patterns. These trade wind patterns are more so what's steering this thing, and if they can die down, I think that we could have a potentially very, very, very destructive storm throughout the Hispaniola area, and I think that Florida could be at risk here. And this is not only by the E-sense, but the ESI as well. And the ESI actually has a following tropical wave, give or take 250 hours out, so we're not going to really live by that one. No. That's fantasy land. We don't go there unless it's showing in every single, just about every single um model here. But the members are starting to agree quite a bit more that this thing is becoming more of a threat to the East Coast, the Bahamas, and Hispaniola, Cabo Verde, Puerto Rico areas like that. And like I said, if this thing can just stay north of Puerto Rico, it can avoid that shear in the Caribbean, which could rip this thing apart, right? So it's really just a matter of timing and location. Where will this storm be at this point, right? Because that's more times than none the deter of what how strong will the storm be and which direction is it gonna go? Because if this thing stays stationary for 2 days, it has that possibility, that pretty decent possibility of making it through that wind shear. And if it can throw itself through that wind shear, it would tear itself apart and bring a lot of rain to the Caribbean, potentially flooding. So it's like I said, with this system, it's gonna be a matter of timing and location and steering patterns as well. Absolutely steering patterns. Can't forget that and can't leave that off the table. All right, everybody. Looking here at our shear patterns, as I stated, very, very, very strong to the south and over Puerto Rico. Now, um, like I said, it's a matter of how how long these um wind shear patterns really stick through this area, the Caribbean. And if it can move very slowly throughout the south side here, just north of South America, just north of north central South America, it can develop, right? And it could potentially stay around here where winds should drop to around 20 to even 15. And that's when that wind shear isn't playing that big of a role. Yeah, it'll minimize the strengthening, but will it actually have an effect on weakening? We don't necessarily know yet. Okay, we don't know enough to speak about it. Well, we know enough to speak on it, but we don't know enough to give a in-depth, detailed forecast on what this thing is actually going to do. So I have no doubt in my mind that this thing is going to develop and make it into the Caribbean. It's just a matter how quickly will it get into the Caribbean. And if so, how strong will the wind shear be? Because it's playing the largest role. Dry air isn't there. Okay, the pressure sitting a little high, but it's gonna work through that, right? As these high pressure patterns shift a bit north, and once these shift north, as you can see here, there's a high sitting over Florida right now. It will sort of get steered up. It's gonna get steered north, but very gradually, very, very gradually. And It's I think what we're considering is out of the picture is that it goes into Bermuda. It's I don't really see it going necessarily OTS to the max. Now, could it go OTS after making a landfall, a minimized landfall on the East Coast or something like that? Yeah, I think that's absolutely a possibility. Like, I think it could maybe chip Daytona Beach a little bit, you know, hit even that northern part, or I apologize, that eastern part of North Carolina. I think it could, you know, just nick one of the states and go OTS, right? Because I think that Bermuda High will be strong enough to just toss it northeast. All right. So, like I said, just a matter of timing and steering patterns. And obviously, these knots, we're seeing 40 knots here over Hispaniola. That's enough to just tear this thing to shreds. I mean, just scattered thunderstorms at that point is what we're talking. So it's a matter of really how strong can this thing get? And obviously, we're seeing to just the north of this system, wind shear patterns up to 50 miles an hour. All right, that is some pretty deep shear there. And if this thing, and that's a big part of why this thing is staying south, because if it can, it's avoiding that shear. If it can remain and it can avoid that shear, it can sort of stick around the south here. That is when we really are going to want to watch how long this thing is going to stay south of this shear. All right, everybody, looking here at our wide Atlantic. Obviously, down off that southwest coast of Africa, you can see a little bit of rotation. Um, Generally on this northwestern side is where I mean, northeastern side, sorry, is where we're seeing um, a predominant amount of this rotation. And I think I can almost guarantee that what it's gonna do is it's gonna shift a little bit, just a little bit the to the west side. Now, obviously, I want to say this one right here is our main system that we're watching. Right here at the 40 to 30 west mark, 10 north. So we are looking, obviously, some really deep convection in there on that northern portion, but you can see that low sort of digging in that just central part there. So it's already sort of bringing itself together. It's already starting to try to wrap that rain around it and become a depression. Now, I think this thing will be a depression by give or take Thursday morning to Thursday afternoon, potentially sooner. So yeah, that's what we're really looking at. And then you can obviously see some pretty strong thunderstorms potentially over Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina area. So that's what we're really looking at for the wide Atlantic. Obviously, you can see those two spots are pretty deep convection, both definitely showing that they are tropical and ready to develop at any moment. Okay, everybody, looking here at our National Hurricane Center outlook, we are seeing that spot with the really deep convection, just off that southwest coast, which was the first one I was pointing out, so I was correct on which one was which. And this one is it's showing signs that obviously at Bermuda High is going to re-strengthen as it moves west northwest into next week. So we really are just paying attention to these steering patterns. Now, spaghetti models are agreeing this system is going to go into the Caribbean. Okay, at this point, it's sort of set in stone. This is going to go into the Caribbean, and I just got this in now. Like I just got this in just now. This system, okay, I can say with confidence it's going into the Caribbean. Now it's going to be a big move for this thing to really move with the wind shear. Now, if it moves with the wind shear, it can stay strong. And is that one of our most mediocre, I guess I could say, possibilities? Yes. Likeliest or most likely, still couldn't give it to you, and I'm not gonna say that it's getting torn up because I don't want you guys to just blow this off because that's a big issue is that people hear, oh, a weakening factor. It's just gonna dissolve, right? No, no. One factor won't ruin an entire story, right? One bad chapter is not gonna ruin a great story. So that's why we're watching it so closely. And then obviously you have this little spot up here, Disturbance 2. It's beating the odds right now. I mean, not really any threat. I mean, maybe to these islands. I forget the name of the islands. I apologize, guys. Just around this 30, we'll say 40 north. No, 38 north. Um, 30, no, 28 west region. If it does develop, keep an eye on it. I don't think it'll be anything more than a tropical storm, a mediocre tropical storm at that. But really, these two systems becoming very concerning. More so, disturbance one here. Very, 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 very interesting to look at right now. So, and then obviously we are watching disturbance three. Um, it could be a possibility that this thing does also do a little something under our noses, right? So that's another reason why we're watching both of these very closely because I did notice with Disturbance 2, it did have some really deep convection coming off that southwest coast of Africa. And that's why these systems like this system alone has overly shocked me. The first one did dissolve as soon as it hit the Caribbean, and that's why I'm saying that this factor is why the wind shear factor is such a big factor. Because if this thing doesn't develop and it underdevelops by the time it goes in the Caribbean, it's done. Okay. Now, could it get launched out of whatever? Could it get launched out of the Caribbean and still remain a tropical wave? Absolutely. But I think it's if that were the case, it would get eaten up by the Bermuda High and shot OT as scattered thunderstorms, right? So it boils down to the timing and the steering pattern. That's literally all. So it's gonna move into an area with wind shear of give or take 30-ish knots. That is strong, okay? Now not super strong, but it is strong enough to rip something like this apart if it doesn't develop in time. So let's hope for the best. We're gonna hope that people can remain safe and stay informed during this. If this does develop, I will say this. I'll say this now, just to get it out of the way. If this does develop and head to the southeast, I will most likely be chasing it. And you can go over to my Instagram where I'll be posting my chasing footage and my first-hand source experience. It's Mike the Hurricane Chaser. No spaces. So seriously, watch this closely as we will continue to watch this throughout the rest of the day and into tonight. So, guys, please remain safe and just really, really watch this closely. Alright guys, that is all I've got for tonight. If you did enjoy tonight's video, please make sure to drop a like and even subscribe if you don't like the content any further. I ask that you even unsubscribe, but if you subscribe and give this channel a chance, I would absolutely love that. And please potentially show it to your friends and family, as I hope this is very life-saving and worth showing to them. Now, if you did find this video life-saving, informative, and helpful, please make sure to come back for more as we will continue to update you on these systems. And like I said, guys, I did post. I think we'll go over a couple of things if you do want to just end the video. That is fine. I won't be insanely consistent as I did just have school start, so I do have other focuses as well. So I really need to prioritize, certain things over others. Not that I'm saying I'm not going to post on here as much. I'm saying it's going to be a little bit of a different schedule, if that's okay with you guys. And I'm going to make sure to keep you guys updated and interact with you guys whether I'm posting that day or not because I love hearing from you guys. And when I hear from you guys, it really tells me what I'm doing right or wrong, which I ask that you really do tell me what I'm doing great on and what I'm doing not so great on because um, I love getting I love getting educationally criticized on things I could be doing better. But that's all I've got for you guys tonight, and I really hope you guys enjoyed and have a great night. Remember to be safe and stay informed.